We'll touch on Liverpool in just a bit, but I want to know from Adam, what do you think is going to happen today when it comes to, if you're hearing it's close?
What do you mean, what do I think is going to happen today?
In terms of the
with
bidding,
the deadline?
yeah.
I'm hoping we get a few bids in. I'm not liking what I hear about Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos trying to keep the Glazers in there. The guy professes to be a Man United fan, but he wants to cut a deal which will keep the Glazers in there, pull the other one. It doesn't sound like a Man United fan to me. There's more protests on Sunday. People say Manchester United fans don't protest the Glazers when we're winning and stuff like that. We've been doing it for years, and it's continuing, and there's protests on Sunday at the game as well, to obviously reinforce the message that the fans don't want the Glazers to remain. So fingers crossed. Obviously, I have my issues with state ownership and things like that, but ultimately, to see the back of the Glazers and it not be a deal that keeps them in a minority is ultimately what we want. And if we get that, then Ten Hag can start to look to the future. But like Gary just mentioned, like delaying it with these second rounds of bids, third rounds of bids, are we going to stay, are we going to go? It's affecting the football team, and it kind of emphasises again, these guys have never cared about Manchester United's football team. They've never cared about how we function on the pitch. While Fergie was there, we won stuff still, in spite of their ownership. And now they're there, and they have to make their own plans, and they have to bring people in. It's like what we saw with Ed Woodward. It's just, you can spend as much money as you want, but if you're not spending it in the right places and you're not got the right people investing, then ultimately it's going to be wasted, which is what we've seen. So we need to get back on track. We need to have the right people spending the money. And we've got the right manager as well now. Like, finally, we've got a manager that is bringing us forward, getting us competing. So if we fail to back him in the summer, it's going to be a huge mistake by United, and it'll be the last slap in the face from the Glazers, just like waiting around and dragging their feet. Hopefully they do one ASAP.
If Ratcliffe is willing to allow the Glazers to remain 20% involved,
no,
I know you don't want it, but doesn't that almost guarantee that he's going to get the preferred bidder?
I don't know. I've been, because I remember Gary said, was on the last overlap, you were like, I think they might stay. And you were pretty concerned about that. And I was kind of, nah, I don't think they'll stay. Will they go this far without,
Thomas Dilikas goes, I'm not putting myself up for a third round of bidding because the process is fast.
That geezer was a fraud, bro. That guy who said that the fans need to put in money and stuff. Nah, he was having an absolute laugh. It's as likely as that I buy them, or Gary.
So just on that, the thinking all the way through is that two of the Glazer family want to stay in, Joel and Avi, and the other four want to sell. So you're talking, they only own 69% of the club, 70% of the club, just to round it up. So what you're talking about is basically the two brothers that would stay in would basically own 20%. The New York Stock Exchange would own 30%, and then obviously if Jim Ratcliffe was buying all the American fund idea, Elliott, they would buy that 50% to get the other brothers and sister out. So that's the idea. Now I think, to be fair, if Jim was to come in at 50%, Jim Ratcliffe, he would probably, because it's become so expensive, he probably can't afford the 70% at day one. So I suspect what he'd have to do is come in, get control of the club, and then take them out within a year or two to make sure that obviously they exit. Because you're absolutely right, they cannot stay in with any control or any power over the football club. They have to exit as quickly as possible. So I suspect he's probably looking at a two-step type position because of the value of the club is at like 6 billion. So he might not be able to afford to get the 70%, which would be 4.2 billion. 70% of 6 billion. 4.2, is it?
Yeah.
4.2, but whatever it is. So he's probably paying 3 initially, which he can maybe afford, and then he'll give the other money, whatever it is, after. So it's complicated.
Isn't that a concern if someone, and I know I don't really understand big finances and all that kind of billionaire stuff, but isn't it a concern if someone's coming in and they haven't got enough to actually get rid of the owners, then they're going to be sitting around dragging their feet? We could just be left in limbo for like 5, 10, how do you know how long it's going to last? And he seems, there's something not quite right about him. He professes he's a fan, but he owns a season ticket at Chelsea and all that. It's just...
Adam, one thing I would say is, though, if he's putting £3 billion down and he owns 50%, he isn't going to let the Glazers call the shots. He's not. He's a big businessman who basically has F1 teams. He has all these... He's not going to come in and just let them call the shots. No one's going to do that. So it's not...
But his desperation to get the club might force him to do that temporarily, and that's not what we want.